All right. Okay, everybody, welcome. Feedback was on me. Oh, yes, it's not. Somebody else has their speaker.
It's coming from the TV.
Testing. Okay, I don't think we have a reverb anymore. So welcome everybody to our Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 City Council meeting. We are meeting here obviously in council chambers. I still hear something.
Yeah.
Try this again. Okay, now I think we're clear. And we also have our Zoom component. So I am having difficulty getting into the meeting tonight, but luckily we have our council members here in person, so I won't have to be calling on them through Zoom. So we are going to go ahead and start off with our invocation given by Mayor Pro Tem Cargill, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
Our Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the opportunity to come together as a community tonight to discuss top issues and do the business of the city. We ask for your presence this evening as we go through the agenda, that you will be with us, that we will feel a sense of community pride and engagement, and ask for your blessing on this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order here at 7:02. We'll go ahead with roll call. Councilmember Van Orman. Here. Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Ball. I haven't
here.
seen y'all in 3 weeks. I think I forgot everybody's name. Mayor Pro Tem Cargill.
Present.
Councilmember Spencer.
Present.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
And Councilmember Dunn did reach out. He has a family thing going on tonight. So if we could have a motion to excuse, that would be fantastic.
Move to excuse.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Spencer, a second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor of excusing Councilmember Dunn, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, we are on to agenda approval.
Unless there are any changes, Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
Second.
And a second by Councilmember Kurtz. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. All right, on to citizen comments. So you will find if you're in chambers, if you'd like to speak, there's a yellow half sheet by the door. If you could please fill that out and get that to Kelsey at the end of the table over here. She'll pass it on to me. Anybody online who'd like to make a comment, please send a note to our meeting host, and he will let me know. So rules of engagement, you guys have 3 minutes to speak, and it is truly a comment period. This is not a back and forth with the council, but if there's something that the staff needs to follow up with you on, we'll make sure we have your contact information so we can follow up. And we just ask that everybody keep their comments respectful, and we'll go from there. So I have one here in chambers so far. So we have Rich Shirley. Like to join us at the podium? Yes. And there'll be a timer on the screen up here.
Testing.
We're on.
I'm here because of Bob West to support the proclamation you're going to read tonight. As a sports official, we deeply appreciate what you've done. Once you've signed it, I'm going to send that to my boss. His name is Todd Stordahl. He is in charge of the Washington Officials Association over on the coast, and I'm sure he'll be glad to get that. And so I just completed my 50th year of officiating, okay? I'm 79, I'm still doing this stuff, okay? We desperately need more officials in every sport. And so because of what you've done, that's fantastic, okay? And I've got to say that in my 50 years, I've never been assaulted. I've never kicked out a coach. I've kicked out a lot of wrestlers and a few parents because they think they know more than me. If you think about it, officials are the only ones that have to know the rules, okay? Coaches think they know them when they wrestled, okay? Back in '06, okay? So anyway, the commitment that we have is fantastic. Washington is a leader in the nation in sports. We have over 3,000 girls that wrestle now in our state. We're second or third behind California and Pennsylvania, and it's fantastic. We have 2 separate tournaments for girls. Just, you know, it's just exploding. And so we desperately need officials, especially female officials, quite frankly. And so I have 25 officials. I have 68 schools that I send referees to. 34 are middle school, 34 are high school. So we start in November, first 2 weeks of December, both middle school and high school. So I tell my referees, don't get hurt, don't get sick, and don't go in a ditch. I don't have a replacement. So anyway, I want to thank you very much, and I'll yield the rest of my time.
All right, thank you very much. And we appreciate all of your hard work. You've been there as well. So thanks for coming tonight. Do we have any other citizen comments from here in the chambers? If not, I'll look and see, do we have anybody online who'd like to make a citizen comment? Okay, great. We will then move on to our announcements, proclamations, and presentations. So I had kind of given a lead into this at the last meeting about a bill that I know Mr. West has been trying to get pushed through the state legislature for a while. I think it came as close as it ever has, if I'm correct, this year. Just didn't make it, didn't even get a hearing in the opposite house after passing unanimously or close to unanimously in the first. You know, as a former official myself, having thrown out a 5th grade Catholic coach for misbehaving and parents as well, and having to have an athletic director walk myself and my partner out of one game for a correct call. I know where you're coming from. I've been lucky not to be assaulted, but it can be really intimidating. So if we can help get some teeth behind some of the laws to help with this, you know, that's why we're doing this proclamation, to try to show our support. So I'm going to have Kelsey go ahead and read it, and then we'll stop before the last paragraph. We'll take a vote from the council, and then we'll finish it up.
This proclamation of the City of Liberty Lake recognizing sports officials. Whereas sports participation has been recognized as an integral part of society and ingrained as an instrumental part of American life today, and whereas sporting events have critical components to their continued success, such as players, coaches, fans, and sports officials. And whereas sports officials are known as the arbiters of our games and instilling fairness, implementing rules of the game, together with providing valuable lessons of sportsmanship, teamwork, and respect for officials, administrators, and fellow athletes. And whereas many sports officials volunteer their time or receive only minimal compensation and participate out of a sheer love of the game and to teach children who play the game the valuable lessons that are learned through participating in sports to achieve a common goal. And whereas it is critical to understand that sports officials are a necessity to enforce the rules of the game, judge potential disputes, and recognizing that there are a sufficient number of qualified sports officials to carry out these duties. And whereas sports officials act as an on-field judges for their respective sports and as neutral participants who have no stake in the outcome of the game and demonstrate unbiased judgment. And whereas sports officials who give their time and energy to officiate games deserve our collective respect and must have our collective assistance in creating a safe and secure environment for participants to play. And whereas young people observe both the good and bad behavior of their sports heroes, other athletes, coaches, and fans, and often emulate that behavior in either a positive or negative manner. And whereas as a society, we must act on the belief that respect for authority is critical to living, working, and playing together in a civil society governed by the rule of law.
All right, so now we'll go to the council and ask for a motion of support for the proclamation.
I make a motion to support the proclamation.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Ball and a second by Councilmember Kennedy. Any comments before I take a vote? All right, doesn't look like it. So all those in favor of supporting this proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes 6-0. Now therefore, I, Mayor Chris Kaminskis, proclaim on behalf of the Liberty Lake City Council and the citizens of the City of Liberty Lake our sincere appreciation to all those sports officials and recreational and school programs who do all they can to promote sports as a beacon to highlight positive behavior and the need for good sportsmanship and fair play. I'll go ahead and sign this. And we've got a copy for you guys. And I think David wanted to have somebody grab their iPhone and get a picture. Get this to you guys on this. Can you send this to Kelsey? I just can't send it. No good.
I just wanted to say, my name's Bob West. I live in the Valley. This has been a long pursuit for 25 years. For those of you that don't know about the wrestling referee up in Colville that was headbutted by a wrestler and knocked unconscious, I was the ref. And so we've been working, have been to Olympia on 5 separate occasions over those 25 years to get a bill passed. This year it passed 97-0 out of the House, and the state went over to the Senate side, and she felt as though it didn't have a high enough priority, so we couldn't even get a hearing. We're going to run the bill again this next year, and it will pass. And this right here is going to help more than you know, and we appreciate y'all's support. Sports official officiating right now, it's tough getting sports officials out there. It's as bad as a 16-year-old girl that was umpiring at a game, and the dad didn't like the call, went home, got a gun, and shot the gal. It's bad out there. It's tough getting sports officials. So this is important. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and hope I can ask for your support when we get this bill up again next year. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. All right, we will move on to reports and inquiries. Do we have any reports from the city council tonight? All right, going once and twice. All right, we'll move on to the mayor's report. I'll make it pretty quick. Several meetings over the last few weeks. We had the annual meeting for Visit Spokane, some great numbers coming out of there. They also have a new refreshed logo and some new branding, which looked amazing. If I can get the link to that, I'll go ahead and send that to you guys through the email. The commercial, for lack of better words, really came out really well, really highlighting the different things that are available in our area to attract visitors and conventions. Mark, we also had the GSI legislative update, the Greater Spokane Valley Chamber Business Awards. Trying to think everything that's gone on here in the last few weeks. Upcoming, if you guys haven't read, if you guys are interested in going, the State of the City for Spokane is coming up. You can register through GSI for that. Thursday, I believe it is, or tomorrow is the AWC legislative update. You can sign up for that as well if you'd like. Little later in coming, I mean, you know, the session's been over for a month now, but it's still good to get their take on what's going on and whatnot. We also had the Greater Spokane Valley Great Government Action Committee. We did the similar things. We went through the bills that passed, ones that are still being looked at and whatnot. And then I've got the SRTC board meeting on Thursday. I think that's it for me right now. So we'll move on to Mark for the city administrator report.
All right.
He's got all the events.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll jump right in and go down this list of events and reminders. Coming up next Monday, April 15th is tax day. That's probably a lot of our least favorite day on the calendar. I also use that to point out that if you were in office as of January 1st of this year, your personal financial affairs statement is due on that same day. So keep that in mind for elected officials. City Academy is revving back up again. We are scheduled to start the class number 3 sessions next Thursday, April 18th. The first couple will be at Trailhead. And then we are going to spend the majority of our time out taking various trips to different places to have a more hands-on approach, to see live action kind of demos of people as they're working in the field and seeing equipment as it does operate, so that you can get a better sense of what's actually happening out there than sitting and maybe listening to a presentation about it. So we're looking forward to that change. We still have a couple of slots available for class number 3. So if you know someone who is interested, or if you are interested yourself, consider maybe coming and joining us. And you can register for those online at our website at libertylake.wa.gov. We have an Arbor Day celebration coming up on April 26th. This is a little bit farther out. That's a Friday. It will be at noon at the ball fields between the elementary schools. And we'll be joined by some of the classes from the surrounding schools, and we'll plant a tree and do the typical Arbor Day celebration thing. So that's always a good opportunity to get out. Hopefully we'll have nice weather to go out and plant a tree at the ball fields. Next up, Spring Cleanup. This is an annual event that is co-hosted by the city, WM, and Goodwill. This is going to be at Town Square Park. And for those that are subscribers to the WM garbage recycle service in the city of Liberty Lake, you should receive a coupon for this that allows you to bring in a load of bulky waste and a load of green waste, I believe it is. But there's more information about this, again, on our website, on WM's website. We'll be posting on our social media channels between now and April 27th to give you more information about that. And then we're back in the season getting ready for the Liberty Lake Farmers Market, also down at Town Square Park, not PAR. And that starts on May 18th. And then my last item on events and reminders is regarding the City Council retreat. This is one where we have not been able to find a date that everyone is available to attend the retreat on. And so my question at this point, we've sent out a couple of groups of date time combos, is, I guess number one, is this a priority for council? And then number two, if it is, how do we go about finding a time where everyone can attend? Is that a different time on Saturday, maybe a PM slot versus an AM slot? What is the answer to help get everyone there? Yes, sir.
I've looked over the poll, and it seems as though perhaps we may have to do it on an off Tuesday night. I mean, I don't know that that's ideal, but it seems like we're usually available on Tuesday nights.
Sure.
So,
and those were
one option.
There were several of those options there. And so if we need to repopulate, send out a new group of off Tuesday dates and even include some Wednesdays, we can do that again and see what the availability looks like there.
Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, first.
No.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Councilor Kennedy.
Somebody jump in quick. Well, you asked two questions. I feel it's important. Yes, I do. I do feel it's important that it always is difficult to try to get everybody together at one time. I know that's somewhat of a challenge, but if we can't do it on a Tuesday, which would be available, I think the best thing I would recommend is we pick a date that looks like the majority could attend. And if somebody can't attend, they can't attend. You know, the council meeting goes on, and not always do we have everybody who's here, but we still move forward. So it would be ideal to get everybody in a retreat at one time, but if not, I think it's important we move forward with it.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I was just going to say, would it be possible, Mark, to perhaps do it on one of our regularly scheduled council nights, and then just clear the agenda for that evening, you know, do the business that we need to do, obviously, but then the rest of the meeting is the retreat, so to speak.
That's certainly an option. Depending on how much of that business or how long that business takes, you could be looking at an extended period or shortening the retreat. the time for the retreat. But that is an option.
And we could always maybe look at starting at 6 with the regular
Sure.
meeting. Because I know there's just so many things coming up. We're just very fortunate that the agenda is a little bit lighter tonight. But there's going to be a lot of more lengthy things coming up in front of the council. Councilmember Kurtz, go
I
ahead.
guess I don't know how flexible people are depending on the date with schedules and stuff too, but like I could come earlier than 6 o'clock as well, depending on what day we're looking at.
Yeah.
So if that's an option
Same.
as well, I think that if people have flexibility there, I'd be willing to do that too.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like repackaging this and maybe including some earlier start times, some off Tuesday dates. Maybe we can land on something where we have more, and to Councilmember Kennedy's point, at some point we either have to decide we're going to have it or we're going to not. My concern up to this point is that we had no more than 5 available on any one date. And so I just want to make sure that we're not missing something or there's an obvious exception that can get everybody together at the same time.
Yeah. Councilmember Ball, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's important, I think, that all of us are here because especially for me being the newest member, well, Mike's new, but old new. Anyway, it's important to me to kind of get to, to see everybody in a different setting and a different perspective and just, be people, and so it's important to me that I think that we're all here. And I, like Andy, I could be here earlier. I could be here at 4 if it's a, but an off Tuesday would be good.
We'll get those other dates out.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So we will package up some new date time combos, get it back out, and hopefully we can land on something within the next couple of days. All right, I appreciate that. Any other questions on any of those events?
I do have one question. Back on the City Academy, this last time what you made available is if somebody couldn't plan on attending all of them, but they had 1 or 2 specific ones they would like to come to. We did open it up for individuals to come to those.
Yes, for the ones that will be at Trailhead, that is not an issue. We have plenty of space. My concern with the roadshow pieces of it is we cap the attendance at a certain number based on some of our partners' input as to the limit that they would be able to take through a facility. And so that's going to be where we have to cap it at the 12.
Good.
Mark, I do have one question on the, you were mentioning on the tax day thing. You're talking about the F1 with regard to us, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It's I believe it's
F1.
F1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's done. Okay.
Yes. Okay, good.
Mark, one other quick thing. I'm wondering if we or you or someone could send out a, maybe it's a Google sign-up sheet for the farmer's market. And I'm just thinking it would be helpful to, there are some Saturdays that are going to work for some of us and some Saturdays that are not going to work. And I would hate to have 6 of us show up at one time on a Saturday and then nobody show up on another Saturday. So I'm wondering if we can get that and then everybody could have access to it and say, hey, I'll do July whatever and August whatever.
Does that mean you have to be able to get into Google Docs? So I don't have a Google email.
Yeah, we
But
can
figure
put
that
something together.
Or some
Yeah.
sort of other.
Yeah.
A scheduler of some
Yeah,
kind.
Some shared file of
Yeah.
some sort. Yeah, I know we've tried that in the past and nobody has signed up. So hopefully we'll have better luck this year.
All right, moving on, quarterly donation report. I'm going to turn the mic over to Kelsey to deliver that. Kelsey.
Thanks, Mark. Mayor and council, you'll notice you don't have a donation spreadsheet in front of you, and that's simply because I don't have any donations to report for the first quarter of 2024. So just
Well,
wanted to let you know that.
That was easy.
That was a great report. Great report.
Thank you.
Any questions about that?
One of the better reports.
Yeah. All right, this next one was a late addition to the report, given some of the information that's been shared. And so I wanted Jen to be able to provide an update on the Centennial Trail project. And I think that she is online with us. Jen?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Perfect. So a quick update on the project that is going to be starting next Monday on the Centennial Trail. It's been a long process in the works to plan for an overlay to happen, and it is finally here. It's been slated for this year. We didn't know when until today. And today we found out that as of Monday, the Harvard Trailhead will be closing for the summer. They will begin work on overlaying from State Line through 14 miles west, which puts it out at the Donkey Island at Millwood. So with that, there was a pre-construction meeting today. I do not have the details to that, but the project will be managed by the contractor with support from the adjacent jurisdictions any way we can support them. It is obviously unfortunate that the trail is going to be closed, but it is in desperate need of an overlay next year. They anticipate to finish the second half of the Centennial Trail in a second project. And this is a 20 to 25 year project. The equipment or the pavement has exceeded its lifespan. And so it is going to be a good thing. There are several events that happen on the trail in the summertime, and most all of those, if not all of those, event users and event goers have been notified and have made plans accordingly. So are there any questions? We will make, oh, go ahead.
Oh, so they're closing like the whole 14-mile stretch at one time instead of doing it section by section?
Yes, we found that out today. I found that out late in the day. I can't tell you why yet. I have a meeting in the morning to ask some more questions with the Centennial Trail group and staff. We'll put some information together as we get it. This is a state parks project, not a city or jurisdiction project. So we really don't have any control other than kind of cooperating and supporting how we can. But yes, that was my understanding. We will confirm everything tomorrow. I'm working with David Gaynor to publish a little bit more detailed information than what went out on the Spokesman Review and KHQ and Friends of the Centennial Trail website.
Wow, that's going to be a huge impact to a lot of people.
Yeah. Lots of questions. So we'll do our best to kind of shoot back some answers as I have more deals. State Parks did issue a press release today. It's fairly benign and high level and doesn't provide a lot of detail. We will go ahead and post that press release tomorrow. And then I'll get with David Gaynor and the Centennial Trail Coordinating Council group and we'll just answer questions as they come in and steer them to State Parks because it is a state parks project.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions? I don't see any, Jen.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. All right, item number 4, this is just to give you a heads up that we have gone through a recruitment process for the Public Works Director position, and we will be bringing council a confirmation action on the April 23rd meeting to have you hopefully confirm our selected candidate for that position. And so after this meeting is over, I will send out to each of you the resume so you can get a sense of the credentials and be prepared to ask any questions. The candidate will be online during the April 23rd meeting so that you can ask any questions that you may have for him.
Mark, quick question. How many candidates did we have apply?
So we ended up having 20 candidates that applied that were referred to us, and that means that they met the minimum qualifications. There were some number north of 20 that applied. We received the 20 applications, and from that we interviewed, we selected to interview 5 candidates. We interviewed 4 candidates. One of them had bowed out in between, and then narrowed that down to 2 finalists who came in and had some more broad-ranging interviews with various groups. And that's how we made the final decision.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but we went from having 0 to having 20 by going with Prothman.
Mm-hmm.
So this position we had never posted before.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll bring you a similar update for the city engineer position, which is the one that we had previously posted. Yeah.
Yeah. And so our 2 finalists were both extremely well qualified, and they were both here. One's from California, one's from here in Washington State. And so they went through, so Mark, remind me, interviews with the team leads, interviews with the directors, interviews with partners. And then Mark and I both spent an hour or so with each one of them doing a tour of the public facilities, getting them to get to know kind of, you know, the buildings and whatnot that they'd be responsible for in upcoming projects and all those kind of things. So
Yes.
both of our finalists were very well qualified.
Yeah.
Linda?
So we'll hear from both the finalists?
No,
or-
just the one that we've made the offer. We've
Ah.
made the offer, he's accepted,
Ah.
but he still needs to be confirmed by the
Okay.
council, and if,
Okay.
then he knows that process. And I was hoping they have it to you guys tonight, but we were concerned that the background check wouldn't come in time. We have no worries about that. He's retiring from the military here over the summer.
Any other questions on that one? All right, we're excited about that, so we look forward to that. I'm going to invite David Gaynor to share an update on the city website project. It doesn't look like David.
Am I there?
Oh, there we go.
He's here. Hello, we can hear you.
Well, since we're talking website, I thought it would make sense for me to speak to you from a screen this time. Civic Plus is the company that we use for our resources for our city's website. They do several city municipal websites throughout the country. And as part of our service with them, they offered us a free design upgrade. We're not having to pay any substantial costs on this one. They contacted us, I think during the fall initially on this, to basically give us a new look, a new uniform to our existing website. It's going to be the similar content we've had. It's just, like I said, new clothes. And I think it's a much more friendly looking look we're going to be having. Looks like we're going to be debuting this as soon as April 25. We've had a committee of about half a dozen staff members that I chose based on their interactions with our website and their different areas of expertise and use on the site. I just want to give credit to some of the people who've been helping out in this process from the city staff. Jen Camp, Megan Edwards, Kelsey Hardy, and Michaela Kittlestead and Jandy Humble have provided good feedback on their needs and their perspectives on what the look should be. And we went through a process of what is the nature of Liberty Lake, the Liberty Lake community, to help the designers come up with visual elements, colors, which are actually based on the Liberty Lake logo. You'll see what I think is a more popping out visual presentation in terms of the text and the words that'll be out there. I think the navigation will be friendlier and easier to use and just easier to find content. And so during the next couple of weeks, we're still doing some cleanup and kind of being motivated to have our old content reflect the newer look we're going to be getting on this. And we're looking forward to the end of the month. And also tied into this, I just want to let the city council members to know that I will also be sending you some information probably tomorrow about a template I want to offer all of you on the council to provide information for the content on your own personal city council member pages, just to provide a consistent appearance to that, a consistent writing style, and consistent useful information for the public to learn about who you people are and what you are doing for the city and your vision for the city and in your work as city council members. Anybody have any initial questions on any of this? And I can answer them one-on-one later on as well.
Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
David, thanks for the info on the website. Is there an opportunity on the site to have streaming content, either the meetings that we're doing or perhaps previous council, the Liberty Lake videos that we've done that are on our YouTube page as well?
We do have a YouTube link on there. Are you referring to specifically posting specific YouTube videos on a designated page?
Either or. I just know that with the website that I have at my own company, we have an opportunity on the page to either stream something live, like a council meeting, or put up a video that we've done before that is on our YouTube page. So I'm wondering if the city can do the same thing.
I will look into that. And I'll be curious to see what you have, Chris, with your organization there and how you're putting that together. Our YouTube channel does have a listing of all of our recorded meetings, and those are basically listed, I think, chronologically. So at least the archived ones are there. We can post specific videos on pages. In fact, I do know the my favorite video I've ever done, it was like 2 weeks after I got here. The 2-minute piece on why we do not want dogs in the dog park, that is
Yeah.
posted on one of the recreation pages.
Exactly. I
Uh,
mean, videos like that, I think would be great to have on the front page of our website.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Chris, feel free to talk to me about specific ideas you have on that, and we'll see what we can brainstorm together.
Any other questions? All right, we're looking forward to seeing it, David. Thanks for your hard work and everybody else as well.
Thanks, David. Last item here is the revisit topic of the library funding mechanism. This was a presentation that we made during a work session at the March 19th meeting. And the staff made a recommendation. And Michael, if you can go to slide number 2, I just want to refresh everyone's memory. The recommendation is that we make no change to the mechanism defined in Ordinance 119D, Section 3. There was some discussion about possibly revisiting this after giving the opportunity for any input to come. And so it's been 3 weeks since the last meeting, and we've received no public feedback on this. And so we are not changing our recommendation and would present that to council as a standing recommendation based on the presentation that we made on the March 19th meeting. And if there are any questions, we'd like to revisit any of that information, we can do that. But we're staying put with the recommendation.
Any comments? All right. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just make one comment. I understand the recommendation. I understand what you were saying, Mark. I think, unfortunately, the language is still somewhat vague in what it says. I mean, we were all confused about what exactly it said. And so to the extent that we could clean that up in the future, just so that future councils know what it means, I think that would be beneficial to the city. That's all. Thank you.
Go ahead. No.
Is that plan on being on our agenda for the 23rd? For any future ongoing decision?
No.
So the discussion at the last meeting, I guess it was, you know, the impression I got from everybody is that everybody pretty much agreed with the recommendation, but I get the point of cleaning the language up to make sure that it's clear that that's what we wanted. And then you had made the comment about wanting citizen input, which we've had none. The library has none either. So aside from cleaning up the language, it doesn't sound like there's any action needed at all.
Other than just cleaning up the language, we have a comfort level with that. And what I'm looking for is to be able to put a period on the end of this sentence.
Well, we'll get with staff and see how, we'll get with staff and see how soon we might be able to clean that up.
Thank you.
I can't make any promises on that.
So I need clarification.
Sure.
What are we cleaning up? What?
So I think it's that piece of the total sales tax bill, basically property tax. Thank you. Property tax billed versus received, because there's that piece that goes to TIF and, you know, because of TIF and lift, to make sure that that's completely clear that it's based on the property tax billed. Does that make sense?
Gross.
So close. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would just say that the item that I kept tripping over, and I know Sean explained that one of the sections points back to the other section, which negates that section. And that was this issue of whether the 23.8 is the floor or the ceiling. And I know we said, well, based on, you know, if you were just looking at that, you could get one interpretation. But then when we went back to I think it was section 2, that basically says that the council doesn't have to follow that. The council could
Can change it.
Yeah, can change it. So that's the thing that I kept tripping over, is whether it was, you know, one section pointed to the other section, and whether there was a dispute. And I know there wasn't. We determined that there wasn't. But I think for future council members, it might be beneficial just to figure out that language.
So is it the request of council that staff bring back a proposed change to section 3?
How about I suggest this, Mayor, if I may?
Sure, of course.
Mark, I'll get with you. We'll look at it. I don't know that we can, based upon the couple of sections, that we just say one section. So we're gonna have to look at it as a whole to try to do that. So why don't you and I talk and we'll try to figure out what that looks like. And then at some point in the future, we can say, okay, here's what we're proposing if this works.
I think that's, yeah, I think to clarify it for future administrations and councils, I think would be helpful.
We're not changing the, I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, yeah, we're not changing the intent.
The end result of what's there, it's just how it's stated.
Okay.
All right. Mark, is that it for you?
Yes, that concludes my report.
All right. Okay, we are on to Civil Service Commission. Joe, welcome back. Mr. Mann, as I should say, actually.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Thanks for the opportunity to bring you up to date on where we are. There's not a lot to tell you other than we're still working on some organizational things. We're still working on our civil service rules. And trying to decide, we've asked for information from Cheney. And frankly, that was a bridge too far. It's far too much information than we need for this civil service. We will address that at our meeting on Thursday evening about where we're going to begin. We are probably just going to go back to the earliest one that was done in 2002 and modify that to fit what is going on today. More than likely, that's where we'll be. We did receive our laptops. I think all three commissioners got their laptops. Thank you for that. That'll help us with any secure communications that we'll need to have. That's very helpful. You know, we did recently hire a reserve officer. Reserve officers are not covered by civil service, so we were not involved in that process. Although the chief was kind enough to invite us to the swearing in ceremony, and I was a day late, so we won't go there. We're preparing because we know there's going to be some retirements and promotions and some openings coming on the police force, and we're going to be working closely with the chief and the assistant chief to make sure that all the civil service rules are being followed and we're doing things in a transparent and fair way. The other last thing is you have a contract before you tonight from our attorney that we want to hire, Michelle Possum. She basically is going to bill us on an hourly rate. I told her that we probably would only need her 10 to 20 hours per year. And that's what she based her contract on. That contract's pretty much a boilerplate and pretty straightforward. So not civil service related, but I also would like to thank you for the resolution on officials. I officiated high school football for 15 years and baseball, high school and college for 18 years. And I can tell you that's, it happens more often than you might imagine that officials get challenged by parents. That's the biggest problem. But thank you for that, because hopefully they can get that legislation passed this next time around. Thanks for that. Any questions from where we are?
I don't think so. Thanks for your hard work. I know it's been a journey.
It is. We're teaching ourselves as we go.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Self-tutorial.
All right, Spokane Valley Fire Department. Chief Soto, welcome.
Good evening, council members, Madam Mayor, attorney, and our citizens. We're reporting March's run numbers for our department. Next slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, so for March, we had 1,930 calls for emergency 911. Roughly 85% of these calls were for EMS. Now, these are for the calls for our entire response area. And we'll get into Liberty Lake specific calls here momentarily. The thing I will point out is that this was the busiest March we ever had. I'm kind of shocked because I thought things seemed to be plateauing and we weren't getting hammered as much. At least that was my mind. But we are continuing to be busy, so that was unexpected. Next slide, please. This here is a book of the area of all calls for March. So this is just March of this year and kind of just shows where all the calls are. The calls in red are fire calls, which could include building alarms or vehicle fires. And then the blue, which is the bulk of it, is for the EMS calls. And again, those made up 85% of this last month's calls. Next slide, please. So year to date, we are just under 6,000 calls total, for which about 82% are EMS. And then from there, it just kind of drops dramatically just because the other calls, you just don't tend to have as many of those calls. Well, what we do is EMS now. Next slide, please. So this is the year-to-date heat map that kind of just shows you where the bulk of the calls are. And of course, you'll notice that the opportunity neighborhood within the city of the Valley has, it's very extremely busy there. And so that's why it looks so heated there. Next slide, please. So those 1,930 calls generated 2,383 responses. So, you know, some calls are fire calls, some calls are higher acuity EMS calls, so it requires more units. So that's why there's always going to be either equal or more responses by the units. To the right of that, 7,290 are what the 5,900 calls incidents to date thus far into the year have generated. Directly below that are all call responses by our units for the month. And you will notice that the top three in the opportunity neighborhood were all just under 300 calls for the month. And then directly below that, you will see the same units in a reverse order, so to speak, just under 900 calls for the year to date. Next slide, please. So this slide, the top slide here shows the locations by station, the percentage of where the calls come in for this last month, and then below that is for the total year. So the first station 8, 7, and 10 make up roughly 46% of the call volume thus far into the year and for last month. Next slide, please. This graph shows our automatic aid, where we generate calls, where we respond to, and where our auto aid partners respond here with into our areas. So specifically here, we went to the city of Spokane 33 times, Fire District 9 20 times, and Fire District 8 19 times. And then in turn, District 8 responded 67 times into our response area, City of Spokane 60 times in our response area, and District 9 7 times in our response area. And again, auto aid is the closest, most appropriate unit. Next slide, please. So here's the graph year to date by month. You can see that March is the busiest. This March is the busiest month that we've ever had for a March. Overall, we're at 5,972 calls. So we're roughly 10% ahead of last year's call volume right now, which is, again, really surprising to me because at this time last year, we were actually less calls than the previous year. So again, we're busy. And then overall, we're at 39%. The growth rate has been 39% over the last 5 years for call volume. Next slide, please. All right, so let's focus on City of Liberty Lake. So for this last month, we had 89 calls. Of those 89 calls, roughly 83% were for EMS. We did have 7 building alarms go off, 3 motor vehicle accidents, 2 CARES calls, 1 hazmat call, and 1 fire call. So that was the call for the month. Next slide, please. And so here you see a map of where those calls were not exactly located, but the general areas of their locations. Again, the red is the fire calls. And this is just for this past March. Next slide, please. This is year to date. We're at 306 calls total, 75% for EMS. I will say that we have a large amount of building alarm calls that have been here in Liberty Lake over the year thus far. So It's just one of those things, but this allows me to take note of that and to see how many times, and if that continues, and if I need to have a conversation with the building owner. So, next slide, please. This is the total calls year to date and where they're located. You will see some of those. There's a couple of purple ones. Those are motor vehicle crashes. Again, the red is fire calls, yellow is hazmat calls, and blue are the EMS calls. So it just gives you a look at where they're at, and specifically bringing on a project manager, it gives him an idea or her an idea of where you may have to build up some infrastructure. Next slide, please. So this is total responses for the month. So those 83 calls generated 93 responses. And then year to date, 306 generated 362 responses. Obviously, the bulk of the calls are taken by Engine 3, which is right down the road for both the month and for the year. Next slide, please. So this just shows us where the calls generate. Obviously, they generate here. So that's all that's showing. I'm just trying to keep the slides consistent with the previous slides. Next slide, please. And this is our year to date for each month, and then overall for the year to date. Liberty Lake accounts for 6% of our total call volume and has seen a growth of 20% call volume over the last 5 years. So I think we. Oh, I am so sorry. I flipped it when I shouldn't. There is no responses outside our area. Turns out Liberty Lake handles most of their business, but we did have a couple of District 8 and City of Spokane units that came in to help out for a fire. Now the next slide. Please, thank you. This is the year to date, month by month. And overall, we've had, again, 6%. We make up 6% of the total call volume in Liberty Lake, and we've seen a 20% growth in call volume over the last 5 years. And that is your report. Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Oh, Councilmember Spencer, then Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. So one question I had is on the building alarms. What's caused, is somebody pulling a fire alarm?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sometimes it's the weather. Sometimes it's the work craftsmanship, if you will. And then sometimes people pull. So I don't know. It'll be in the report. I can pull up the report and look at them.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Usually it's a water. It's water pressure. So either the pressure surge or a reduction in the pressure, and it sets off the alarm.
One other question I had was in follow up to the you guys were doing the comprehensive planning,
right?
And had several of us involved. Strategic planning. How is that going? When are we gonna maybe see some results of that?
Oh, that's just getting going. So that's a 5-year plan. We have received back the first draft of it, and so now we have to take it. We have to come up with outcomes. Then we send it back. They build that back up, then we have to prove it one more time, and then hopefully it'll be out towards summer, I'm hoping. Okay. But then at that point, it's just it's our guide for the next 5 years through 2029.
All right, and Councilmember Kennedy next.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the report. It's always interesting to look at the statistics on it. You mentioned we've had about a 20% growth over the last 5 years. Is that more relationship to the growth of the city, or is there more fires or emergencies that would bring that 20% growth?
I would say it's all population based.
Okay.
So I mean, we've seen I want to say overall for our response area, we've seen a 14% increase in growth over the last 5 years.
It's not something out of the abnormal, such as fires or something like that.
No, we haven't seen anything. No, the numbers are where they're supposed to be. It's just there's just more people calling now.
Great.
The houses are going up quite fast right now. So
not from flames though, right?
What's that? No, pardon the pun.
Thanks, appreciate it.
All right, did I see? Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
Well, I think it was the other gentleman mentioned about the alarms that when it got really cold, remember it was it January, that a lot of pipes are bursting and setting off alarms. So
right, and so that's a reduction in the water pressure. So
yeah. So yeah.
Right. Councilmember Kurtz.
You mentioned that there has been an increase that you were a little surprised by with the number of increased calls for March and then a lot of EMS. Is there something that you can point to or something anecdotal as far as what those EMS increases are?
Not a clue, not a clue. There's nothing that stands out. That's what's so weird. There was not even a buildup to it. It's just a large increase in calls. I don't know if it's just the cold weather or I don't know.
Any clips?
Well,
That'll show up in
but
next
this
month's
month, we'll
report.
see.
Yeah.
We'll see that on the next month.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, if I may, I want to, and you know this, but a short story and also a public service announcement from myself. So I've gotten to know the guys from Spokane Valley Fire 10 quite well through my dad being sick last year, and then in February, my mom had an incident, and I was out of town, and she's got COPD, she's got AFib, she's got all kinds of things wrong, but looking at her, you wouldn't know it. She was feeling bad one day in the evening. She made her way to the next door apartment and knocked, I'm sure, very lightly. And had her next door neighbors not been in their kitchen, they wouldn't have heard her, and she would have died on the floor outside their door. Luckily, they heard her, got her inside. They called 911, and Station 10 responded. And neighbors were able to direct them in through the patio and everything, and they were able to revive my mom. If they hadn't gotten there, I would have lost her while I was out of town. And thankfully, thankfully I got her home in about 3.5 days in time for kickoff for Super Bowl. I mean, I swear the woman has 9 lives. But one thing, and this is the PSA part of it, I know all the meds my mom's on. I know where they are. I obviously don't live there. So one thing I know was the challenge is the team went next door to her apartment and they were looking for her medication. Most people keep it in their bathroom while she keeps it in the kitchen. Couldn't find it. Luckily, it didn't have any impact on the care they were giving her that night. But the second I got her home from the hospital, I went on my chart, made sure all of her meds were updated. Now she has a printed list on her refrigerator of all her meds, and I've got an updated one to take her that actually lists all of her current medical conditions. And whether you're 87 like my mom, or you're mid-50s like me, or you're 23, I highly suggest having that information readily available, especially if you live by yourself, or if you're home alone a lot, to make that information readily available to EMS so they can properly treat you. We were just lucky that none of that came into play that night. But again, thank you for your team. We were able to make it over there. I was able to get mom over there to give a personal thank you and take an ice cream cake. And she got to spend some time with the guys who saved her life. And I know I'm sure they really appreciate it because they don't know the outcomes a lot of times. So it helped her, and I think it helped them too.
Oh, I did. They very much enjoyed it. And I made sure to keep all the people like me out of there so that you guys could have just the genuine time with the guys, and the guys could just beat the guys. So,
but we learned a lot that night. Yeah, and we learned a lot that night, I said, about these things. And so I'm working on it for us as well, just to make sure the information is handy for if anything ever happens.
Yeah, we generally look on the fridge or in the bathroom. That's kind of where people might.
Yeah. So thank you.
Also, in regards to Mark and the City Academy, we're doing May 16th.
Yes.
We're probably going to be doing it most likely here at Station 3.
Great.
And so, I mean, we're, I don't know if we're getting 12 or more than 12, but I mean, everyone's welcome, especially the police officers, because I know they want to be firefighters. So. Yes,
for those of you who don't know that story.
If you can't beat us, sir, you can join us. I think that's the saying.
So Chief, during the law enforcement session, there's going to be a live taser exercise. And so Chief Simmons said, you're welcome to attend that.
200 guys.
Okay.
The new tasers, not the old one, the new ones.
Any other questions?
Thanks again, as always.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Moving on, Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. Bill Genoway, welcome. Haven't seen you for a while. Been online.
Come
come down and see what's going on down. I have an interesting story about that too. So my son's been in law enforcement for 25 years. He's retired now, but he said we would roll into a neighborhood and people would go, "Ooh, it's the cops." Fire rolls into the neighborhood and they're all going, "Oh, look at these guys. Aren't they great? They're all good-looking guys and they're all handsome and it's all this." And he goes, "I don't get it." When they have a problem, they call us. So anyway, we have an interesting situation at the district. And Councilmember Dunn brought this to our attention probably a month ago, but now. And a lady wanted to do something for the community. She wanted to buy 29 acres in Bella Lago. If you don't know where that is, it's kind of east of Liberty Lake Golf Course. And the city didn't want to deal with it or didn't need it for any reason. And he said, "Why don't you talk to the district and they might have some needs." And we really don't, but when you're dealing in water sewer, you always have to think of the future. So the future for us is 50 years down the road. So we don't need a tank there now, but 50 years from now, we might. So it has elevation, which is hard to get in the city. It fits our profile for what we would do, probably not us, but the next generation of water people. Anyway, so we went through a whole process of, putting together a bid to get this property. And the lady was wonderful. She was kind-hearted. She had no family. She wanted to give this legacy to the city of Liberty Lake. And in our case, the Water and Sewer District. So we went down this road for quite a ways. Our attorney got involved, spent a lot of time. And in the end, the seller didn't, he wanted to close by the end of the month. And we can't operate that way. There's a lot of due diligence that we have to do because you're dealing with public funds and you can't just up and say, "Okay, we'll just clean it up here and clean it up there and then we'll be done." And he was determined on this tax. So the whole deal fell apart. But I have to say, Councilman Dunn, came to our meeting last night and we explained to him that the deal, it was a good, kind-hearted kind of an offer that we couldn't pass up for the money that it was going to cost us. And we appreciated his time at the meeting and he stayed and we chit-chatted and it was good. So it's always nice to have the city come to our meetings once in a while and see what we're doing. Just hang out. On the announcement side of it, we are, it's backflow testing time. So you need to have it in by June 30th. A lot of people don't like that, but it's an important part of our process to make sure that the backflows are properly installed and that they work. Another announcement is the district is celebrating 50 years anniversary, and we're going to have an open house on May 8th from 3 to 7 p.m. So it might be kind of fun to see the history of Liberty Lakes Sewer and Water District that was basically put in to clean up the lake. The lake it was described to me as the color of pea soup.
Pea soup.
When we started.
Yep.
And now look at it. I mean, it's a gem. You were talking about the academy earlier. We have things at the district that are open for tours and things like that. And we have the treatment plan is a great place to see how we do what we do. And it is kind of a gem in this city. And we have operators that would take people on tours of the treatment plant, show them where it comes in, where it goes out. If you think that's fun.
So those tours are on the academy schedule.
Oh, are they?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay, that's about it, except one more public service announcement. So my wife was falling a lot. And so I was having a hard time picking her up. In fact, I almost couldn't toward the end. And I went over to the fire station and talked to a fellow, the chief there. And I said, is there an easy way to pick somebody up off the floor? And he said, there is. Call us. So
It's true.
and they came all the time. I mean, they were, go ahead.
Oh, I just want, where is your open house on May 8th? Is it at the?
At the
facil-
district office. We just remodeled it.
Oh.
It's, you know, it's kind of fun to see what we've done to it. Completed all the new equipment's in, furniture, painting, you know, it just needed sprucing up. So.
Is that the Denny Ashlock building?
Pardon?
The Denny Ashlock building?
Is that what it's called? I didn't know that.
And I also wanted to say, I did the tour when I was campaigning. I went and did the tour of the facility and I was,
The treatment plant?
yeah, I was stunned. It's awesome.
It's fast.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, the tertiary system was expensive to build, but it's the most interesting part of that. You know, the old style secondary system is pretty much tanks and things, but when you get into the real meat potatoes of that thing.
Well, it was fascinating where how bugs are eating bugs.
Gotta have bugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the kids-
Make me more.
We have kids come through, you know, grade school stuff.
What?
But that's the most
I know.
We have a little demonstration of how the bugs work. And the
Yes.
kids love the bugs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a kid at heart, I guess. I love the bugs.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Bill? Thanks for coming. All right, we have no workshops for tonight, so we're on to general business consent agenda.
Mayor, make a motion to approve general business consent agenda items 10A, B, C, and D.
Second. We have a second by Councilmember Kurtz. All right, since we're on consent agenda, we'll go right to the vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items A through D, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Now on to action items.
Mayor will make a motion to approve general business action item 11A, the interagency agreement between the City of Liberty Lake Police Department and the Washington State Patrol regarding commercial vehicle enforcement, and authorize the mayor and police chief to sign the agreement.
All right, that's a mouthful. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from, okay, Councilmember Kurtz. Sorry, I wasn't looking. All right, do we have any questions? Chief's here, and so is, I know your first name. Why am I blanking on your last name? I know your first name. I always forget your last name. So, and Officer Powers with us. So Officer Powers came to us with these credentials already, and this allows him to actually continue to do the work. Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah, I was mostly just curious from a practical standpoint, what this is going to look like for our city and how our officers will be involved.
Okay. How long do you have? He's passionate about
Give us
this,
the
just
cliff
let you know.
notes.
Big question is, I don't know. So what it does is commercial motor vehicle, if you look at it this step, Washington State Patrol is the federal arm for commercial motor vehicle enforcement. And then below that, because they don't have enough commercial motor vehicles, enforcement officers, they're the ones that the state does have to state routes. So anything outside of like Spokane City, Spokane County, they're left to their own devices, and basically they can run and do what they will, and nobody can enforce it, because most law enforcement, you spend in basic law enforcement academy, you spend about 30 minutes on commercial motor vehicle. You get a lot there, right? So you go to a school, you do all this, and underneath that jurisdiction, under that umbrella, we're allowed to do commercial motor vehicle enforcement under the CVSA guide, which is the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. They're basically, you do inspections, level 1, level 2, level 3, and allowed to do level 5, which is a stationary. If a business here says, hey, can you come in and look at our trucks? It's all for safety, and it's all for roadway safety, also for public safety of all property carrying vehicles, as well as passenger vehicles within the state, and also weights and measures. So the good part is that we're next to the POE, which is the point of entry right here. So we don't have to, like when I worked for the sheriff's office previously, we'd have to carry weights and measures with us. And then, you know, if we were up in Chattaroy, we just, you know, weigh them out there. The great part is the state has allowed us that we can actually point them to a next point of entry or any scale house that we are allowed to go to. The great part is if we find an overweight vehicle here, we just point them to the point of entry, we follow them in there, and then they get weighed out. So that's always open. Right now, they're having some outside issues with having night shift, but most trucks aren't running night shift. I mean, your early morning delivery started about 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and then it goes to usually about 3 to 5 in the afternoon. The big thing about this is in order to be able to stop those vehicles, anybody can, but you have to have the knowledge, and then you can't inspect them. Only a certified inspector can do that. And that's where I come in. I'm a certified inspector through CVSA, federal and state. So this will allow me to stop vehicles in Spokane, or excuse me, in Liberty Lake that are running amok. Basically, they right now, I mean, it's been told to me that there's nobody out here. I mean, we can do what we want when we want, and we can ride as heavy as we want. State just pulled them over a vehicle just outside of Hawkstone on Appleway, which is obviously in city limits. He was 22,000 pounds overweight on a single axle. That's destroying your road. I mean, flat. Yeah. 22,000 pounds, you know, so it's out there. And these things. Now you've also got 750, from my understanding, and forgive me if I'm ignorant, but 750 apartment complexes that are going like apartments, and then 250 for the permitting of houses. All that dirt's got to go somewhere. Guess where it's coming? It's going in and out of Liberty Lake, and they're all dump trucks, oversized dump trucks and stuff like that. It also allows me to look at permits and making sure they have the verified state permits, and make sure that Liberty Lake is not being taken advantage of because, oh, well, you don't have a permit process here, so we're going to do whatever we want. That happens quite a bit, especially when there is no permitting process within a state or a jurisdiction. So this allows that. So for most officers, it's not going to do anything. It does, we are allowed to stop them as just as a regular law enforcement officer, but the inspection, the weigh-in, and all that stuff is done by a certified inspector, hence myself. This program is not going to cost the city almost anything. I'm already state certified. I can use the patrol car that I have, very limited tools, about $300, another $100 worth of the new information, the 2024 criteria for CVSA out of service. So within probably less than $500, you got yourself a commercial motor vehicle inspector. The state gives all that information and gives it to us, and then we give it back to the feds.
That's great.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the explanation.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if it was a little long.
No,
I really like this. So
no, it's really great to hear all the explanation. We had this at one point a long time ago, well overdue. And I know that was one of the things, besides from the rest of your amazing history and your other amazing credentials, one of the things I know Chief was really interested in. So we're happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I really do appreciate it. And you know, when we go about it, it is again about public safety, you know, because those are big trucks. The ones with the most lug nuts win, and we are seeing a huge increase in the county of, you know, and I'm going to give it a number. I'm not saying it's right, but about a 15% increase in death and mortality in commercial motor vehicle because there isn't much enforcement out there. Spokane County doesn't have any more. City doesn't have any more. State is the only ones out there, and they're on state routes. So you're seeing all these commercial motor vehicle fatalities, and I'd like to limit that, at least in our jurisdiction in the city of Liberty, like not have that, and they know if they come in here, they're going to be held to the higher standard. Thank you.
So I think we got one question here from Councilmember Ball.
Yeah, thank you. I just wondered, are you the only one with this certification with the Liberty Lake?
In Liberty, yes.
Oh, so you're the only one that can stop?
No, so law enforcement can stop. I'm the only one that can inspect. It's different. Yeah, I mean, if you see them like red light violation, they can stop them. They can give them a ticket. Inspection is the inspection. It's basically, if you look at it, it's a 34-step process from the left side bumper all the way around, looking underneath of it, brake checks, making sure that they have appropriate brakes and stuff. I personally have stopped 3 vehicles here. As I'm still a DOT inspector, I just don't have the be able to Washington State Patrol gives me the forms. I don't have those forms yet, but I did it. All 3 of them were out of service. So you're out of service means that there is such a criteria sharp violation that vehicle is actually stopped and not allowed to be on the roadway. So yeah,
How do you tell though, just, visually if a truck's way overweight,
There's different ways of telling it. The easy way for me is, and I try to explain it. If you see tires that are coming down off of tandems, single axles or whatever, and there's a bulge at the bottom, that will actually tell you that it's overweight or it's an under inflated tire. You can also see it's called pushing a load. You can see it four-cornered when they actually put dirt in there. If it's mounted up, usually it's light and fluffy, but if they pounded it down and pushed it down and it's out, it's called pushing a load. It means it's overweight. You can look at the springs, you can look at the axle housings and stuff like that. That actually shows it. It's just something that you just kind of pick up as you start to do it. Most people wouldn't know, but as you do this, I've done it for over 10 years. You can kind of like, oh yeah, that one's overweight. And you can hear the engine whine, different things when it takes off from a stop. It's like, ooh, it's like, yeah, that's a little overweight. It's trying, there you go. So anyways, but yeah, that's a good question. All law enforcement can stop trucks for state law violations, but under the federal, under CFR 49 CFR, which is the commercial federal regulation for it, they cannot do anything with 49 CFR. That's where I come in and I can place them out of service. I can do all that. When I was working for the county, I was pushing about 22 to 24% of out of service. The national average is 8. So anyways, and just around here, because it's a state line, and we also have loads that are coming in from other states and stuff right here and coming into Spokane County. It's crazy. I mean, it's literally crazy, and it's getting worse. Every time I drive around, it's like, because I've been out of it for about 1.5 years, and it's like, this is nuts. So
some of the things that we've had to do without a commercial vehicle officer in the past is Deputy Chief Morgan and I have actually gone to the businesses and contacted in Washington and in Idaho and contacted the business owners and say, knock it out. I've worked with Jen's crew, and I'm not going to get into any details and stories, and Mark knows some of these, but I've actually gone to construction sites and I've told them until we can get this worked out, you got to shut it down. So instead of me having to shut down an entire construction site and say no vehicles are leaving, coming or going until you can get this figured out, this is an option for us. Because it's a better option than shutting down an entire construction site. We can get people in compliance. And I've done that several times over the past couple of months because of commercial vehicle issues. It's destroying our roads, it's our stormwater systems. It's really bad. So, but we're trying to, and we do also have another officer who is also interested in getting certified, becoming a certified commercial vehicle enforcement officer. So hopefully we may have 2 here coming up. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So as a follow-up to that, has there been, because we are so close to a point of entry, has there been an issue with trucks skipping that and coming into Liberty Lake?
I mean, we work with the county and I say, hey, what should I do about this? I've called the point of the point of entry, the scales here, and let them know. I come in from Idaho every morning, and I can tell you that it doesn't matter if I take 53 to Trent or I take I-90. There are trucks bypassing the scales. But the problem is, I can stop them. I can say, let's go back, but that's about it. That's about it. But there's so many of them that it's and they are coming through Liberty Lake. So one of the problems that I wanted to stress with you guys is the state allows them to get off there. There is no law that, as they come across the state line, it doesn't say all trucks are mandated until after Spokane Bridge Road. So they can go off Spokane Bridge Road. They're not breaking the law. They go around, and I don't know how many times we've seen them either go to Sullivan or back into off here off the harbor and come back right back on. And you'll see it with oversized loads a lot and stuff. It's not a violation of state law because there's no sign actually saying that. So once you go past a Spokane Bridge Road, then it says all trucks must. You see the signs. So coming into the state, they don't have that, and I've addressed that before, and the state doesn't want to do that, which is fine. But we can address it when it comes into Liberty Lake, and that would be a better deal.
So as a result, we're going to see until they get the picture, you're going to be a busy guy.
Yes, local companies will know within a month or 2 that I'm back out. I guarantee it. Everybody will talk. It's a small community, and they all know. And it's one of those things. I think I'm very fair, but I'm also objective. And it's like, what are you doing to our roads? This is my city now. This is I work in Liberty Lake, not the county. And what are you doing here? And what is it doing for our safety and our roadways? And stuff. And that's something that we need to look at with that, and I'll be very aggressive with my commercial motor vehicle enforcement for that and making sure that they hold the line here.
Great, super. All right, well, if there's no more questions. Those in favor of approving action item A, the interlocal agreement between the City of Liberty Lake PD and Washington State Patrol, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Mayor, make a motion to approve, general business item 11B, the grant award from the Spirit of Blue Foundation for the donation of 46 Armor Choice 10-inch by 12-inch level 4 shooters cut ballistic plates, valued at $33,273.18.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Spencer. Thank you. All right, another PD action here. Again, grant money for that. Do you guys have any questions for Chief Simmons on this item?
Is this basically bulletproof vests?
So hold on, wait till he comes up and ask him.
Is this bulletproof vest basically?
No, so they're actually armored plates. So they're actually armored plates. They're a little bit different than the bulletproof vest that I have on. So they're armored plates and they're designed to take the impact of a round that has the velocity a lot higher than the ones that these can take. So these are the plates that we will use when we respond to shootings, active shooter incidents, those types of things where this is Swiss cheese. It won't do us any good. So it affords us a little more protection when we respond to incidents where we believe that there may be high-powered weapons used and those types of things. So.
Right. And great work on the grants.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Not hearing any. All those in favor of approving the grant award from Spirit of the Blue Foundation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I'll make a motion to approve general business item 11C, the Dickey Foundation grant approval in the amount of $3,520 for the purchase of 23 external plate carriers.
Second.
Okay, a second from Councilmember Kennedy. All right, any questions on this one for the chief? You should have just stayed up there. No questions? All right, those in favor of approving of accepting the grant from the Dickey Foundation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Make a motion to approve general business item 11D, the changes to the public comment at board meetings, library policy as recommended by the Board of Trustees.
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Councilmember Kennedy. Any questions on this? I know Jandy gave us a preview a meeting or two ago. Just a little bit of cleanup. Anybody have any questions, concerns? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the changes to the public comment at board meetings policy, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Make a motion to approve general business item 11E, the agreement with Sayer and Fossum to provide legal services for the Civil Service Commission.
We have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a second from Councilmember Spencer. Any questions on this one? We do have it budgeted up to $10,000-ish, but as Commissioner, which commissioner hat should I put on? Civil Service Commissioner Mann said that they're expecting minimal 10+ hours a year. So any questions on that? All right, not hearing any. Those in favor of approving the attorney services for the Civil Service Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0.
And finally, make a motion to approve general business item 11F, the approve joining the Johnson & Johnson opioid settlement and authorize the mayor to sign the participation form.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Kennedy. Are there any questions on this? A lot of pages, Councilmember Kennedy.
I do have a question. I read it's about $14,000, some of that figure we're going to get on that. I'm trying to remember in the past.
I think it was 24.
I think it was a little more than that. If I recall.
24,000
Yeah.
minus attorney fees. Yes.
Okay, great. Raise, I love it.
Yeah.
My question is, have we, in the past, we've done this, would that set up for the funds to go to public safety?
So the funds are reserved for opioid abatement. So they are receipted into the general fund and then they are considered restricted revenue.
Right.
So that we can apply them toward activities that are considered opioid abatement activities.
Public safety.
Generally, yes.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Ball.
So, okay, so it said that the funds will be held in a QSF, which I don't know what that is, before being distributed. So what is a QSF? Where does this, when we get this 24,000-ish, where does it go? What, one of our funds? And let's see. And it said that it has to be used for opioid abatement, and there needs to be a council to oversee this. Who's that? Who's the council?
So Spokane Valley has established an opioid abatement council.
Okay.
The Liberty Lake City Council has appointed me as the city's rep. So I sit on that council. And we meet monthly and talk about different aspects of all of these settlements and how each of us is using those funds.
Oh, okay.
To answer the first question, when they distribute the funds, which should be in June, July timeframe, assuming that all 125 eligible cities and counties join, we'll receipt it into the general fund. But it will be considered a restricted revenue, meaning that it has a single purpose. And so that's how we will spend it. That's how we'll track it. That's how we will report it to the Opioid Abatement Council.
Right. So, yeah, they were pretty specific about
yes.
that. Yeah. Okay. And this one, and Sean, this is probably up your alley. This just kind of confused me. Janssen may promote products for the treatment of opioid-induced side effects so long as promotion does not associate the product with opioids or opioid products. What are they saying?
I mean, I don't have the context of a multi-page agreement, but my assumption is that J&J is trying to say that we can promote certain things as long as it's not promoting opioid use or abuse. I think that's probably the intent in the release language.
Okay. I may have gone down the rabbit hole. Don't get too much with it.
Easy to do.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I think the important thing is, as with the prior settlement, and I know you weren't here for that, but what Mark is talking about, that was a prerequisite that these committees had to be established and utilized in order to use the money. So the money is restricted where it is. It has to go through this committee, and the committee has to approve a process for using those funds, and it's done statewide. They broke up the state in various counties, and they're all a part of this. And then they, breaks down from there as it relates to opioid abatement.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? All right, not seeing any. All those in favor of approving joining the Johnson & Johnson opioid settlement, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0. Okay, we are up to council comments. Does anybody have anything to add? Councilmember Kennedy.
Yeah, I would like to say, I should have said this earlier, but a week over a week ago, we were able to attend the annual dinner for Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce. The mayor was there, several of us were there, Councilman Dunn was there. And I really wanted to give a special shout out to Craig Howard and Ben Wick, that this year the Citizen of the Year was Ben Wick. And as most of us know, that Ben is not only elected official of Spokane Valley, but he and his charming wife worked very hard and diligently to put out the splash. Last year, the recipient was Craig Howard. And these two individuals I have always admired, because if you think of the city of Liberty Lake, we're not large enough where we have the newspaper or TV station. Now it's just controversial. Then they're on our doorstep to give information to the citizens. There's no way that the citizens get that information other than going online, and a lot of people don't do that. The Splash has been that avenue for us. Craig Howard's an individual, as long as I can remember coming to the city council, long before I ever had an interest in running for office, he sat in the back of the room and listened, and doesn't live here, and gave reports of what was going on in the city to the citizens on it. So Spokane Valley Chamber, I think, did an excellent job of picking Craig Howard for last year, and also for Ben Wick this year. I think both these individuals, regardless of their work for a business of profit, have been very instrumental in helping Liberty Lake to grow.
Any other council comments? Councilmember Kurtz.
I like the agenda. I like what you guys did with it. It looks a little different this week, this month.
It's the new software.
Yeah, I like it. Well done.
100% of the credit goes to
Kelsey.
Kelsey. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, that was it?
That was it?
Okay. Anything new on the school, calendar thing?
Oh, the balanced calendar committee. I think
Yeah.
you guys, I'm not sure what the total audience was, but they did send out the survey. So the survey's out. We have our next meeting on Thursday. And then at some point we'll get the results of the survey and then look at presenting that to the school board with our recommendations about whether to have a balanced calendar with that input in mind.
Okay, great. Councilmember Valdo, I see your hand go up.
Oh, I got that email today. I'm sure everybody did about, Les Schwab finally having a ribbon
Yes.
cutting on
Yep.
Friday. I wondered when they were gonna do
Yeah,
that.
they're just waiting for the weather to clear up. So the ribbon cutting's from 2 to 3, and they're also doing some activities on Saturday from about 11 to 1. They'll have David's Pizza truck's gonna be there. For you, all of you David's Pizza fans. So yeah, all right. I know it's council comments, but I'll just add one thing. My phone's been ringing over the last week since Senator Padden decided not to run again. No, I am not putting my name in, no matter how many people ask. Dead set, no, I've got a commitment to this community. I am not interested in doing anything besides this. So I'm like, why? No, not interested. I just want to do Liberty Lake. So if anybody gets that idea in their head, tell them no. So that's been interesting. I never would have thought I would have got those phone calls. All right, public hearings and appeals, we don't have any. Resolutions, we don't have any. And we are up to a first read ordinance 277A. Kelsey.
Ordinance number 277A, an ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, amending ordinance number 277 passed September 7th, 2021, establishing a community engagement commission.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the red lines that came out? Councilmember Kurtz.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to see what the council thinks about one additional potential change. I had a resident ask at one point if there was any interest in having with the at-large positions, the idea of somebody who could participate that's in like the 99019 zip code. So people that are still part of our community, shop at our stores, go to our schools, could be a part of the Community Engagement Commission, even though they may be south of Sprague. So I wanted to see what you guys think about for those at-large positions, maybe having a may, like a may, not a shall. But be someone who lives in the 99019 zip code.
That's just an adjunct position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely be in favor of it.
Yes, one follow-up. So you're specifically referring to the at-large members, right?
Yes.
So under item E. So are you, Annie, are you saying one of those positions or all of them could be?
I would say
I was thinking one,
Okay.
but whatever you guys want to talk about.
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the idea. I just want to make sure we clarify that we're talking, it's not just at-large members as a whole, it's an at-large member.
And
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
Yeah, say one maybe. I don't want to put you on the spot, Mr. Saba, but would you have any thoughts of what the Community Engagement Commission would think about that idea?
Yeah, we talked about it before.
Okay.
About having, and it was an adjunct is what we talked about. Having them, someone out of the area over by the lake is what was brought up.
Okay.
And yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
Okay. So you think the commission would be in favor of something like this?
I will bring it up to have it added to the agenda for our next meeting next week, and we will discuss it, vote on it, and I'll let you guys know. But I don't see any reason why not.
Okay,
Question?
so given that information, we could still make that adjustment in the second read, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, Councilmember Kennedy?
I'm assuming that'd be a non-voting position.
Yeah, I would.
Yes. Yeah, very good.
I would, yeah. That's how we, well, I'm trying to think, when you were on planning commission, I can't remember, were
Adjuncts did not.
or the,
Adjuncts
well,
don't vote.
I know the adjuncts don't vote, but there was also an allowance in the planning commission rules of procedure
Right.
that allows one person from outside of the jurisdiction, but I don't think for the while we haven't had anybody from outside. Now Troy is now, but I think he gets to vote.
I think there was a revision, wasn't the revision, it's been a while since I looked at it. I thought the revision was he or she would get to vote in the event a member was not present,
Right.
but they did not have a vote
Right.
in and of itself.
Right. So they would always, that position would always be an adjunct. Okay, we'll
Right.
take a look at it, Councilmember Kennedy.
I can remember at the time because I lived outside the city and I was on the commission at the time, but I did have a vote. And it was Councilman who brought it forward to change that. And I supported that at the time, that I felt that it was somebody living outside the city, which in that case, it was me. I got up and spoke where you are now, that individual should not have a vote. But I feel, and I still feel very strongly that the vote should come from citizens who live within the area.
Yeah, because it won't.
Right, it was
potentially-
Bob Moore that made the motion.
Yeah, I wonder who he was. Okay, so if you can take that to community engagement, we'll take a look at it.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like there's consensus to allow one of the at-large members may be from outside the city limits, but that position would be non-voting. Is that what I heard? But we can work on that.
Okay.
What one thought is
Yes.
there 9 total?
Yes.
So if you have a non-voting member, you're gonna have 8.
Yeah.
So just something to think about.
Go ahead, Andy.
I feel like the mission of the Community Engagement Commission is a little bit different than maybe our planning commission is. And so I don't feel strongly that they shouldn't be able to vote, especially if it sort of messes with the number that we have. I mean, I feel like if they're a part of our greater community, they should potentially have a vote. I know that there's been a discussion about whether they do or they don't pay taxes and whether they are or not a part of the city. But I do feel like they are part of our community. And if it's the engagement commission, it'd be nice if they were on an equal field with the people within that. So maybe that's something that they can talk about
Yeah,
as
give
well.
us some
We'll
feedback
discuss
on-
that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we'll come up with.
Yeah, and ultimately any spending for community engagement, the council has to approve. Okay, we'll get that feedback and then we'll see what we come up with for any adjustments for the second read. Councilmember Spencer.
I mean, one thought would be to leave the 5 at large as citizens and add a 10th position as an adjunct non-voting position outside of the city limits.
Okay.
Something to consider.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, thanks for the suggestions. All right, so we have no emergency ordinances, introduction of upcoming agenda items.
2 quick changes,
Yes.
Mayor. One, I'd like to see if we can just strike the north side of the river discussion. That's been on there forever. I'm not sure when many of us even remember what it is.
I
And
think
I
that
tried to
came-
look
that-
back at my notes and I couldn't remember.
I think that came from that big manila envelope we all
Yeah.
got. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So,
go
as
ahead.
long as nobody's,
Does anybody have any objection to that, Mark?
No objection, just to add some context, that issue will be potentially part of the comprehensive planning cycle, which we are now in.
Right.
So there's no danger of removing it from this
Okay.
list.
and then I believe the Kramer Parkway overpass signage was Councilmember Kennedy's.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
What was that about?
But if it goes sideways, I'm gonna say it was you.
Potential additional signage on the bridge saying, welcome, saying, like there's going into Post Falls, it says Post Falls somewhere.
Yeah.
I do have a question somewhat related to that. Because of the position of the overpass, the big sign that's lit up that says Liberty Lake Corporate Park
Yeah.
is, no one knows what it is. You can't see it.
Yeah.
It's just a blob. So I'm not sure if
Now, who owns that?
I would, I don't know either.
Oh.
I keep driving past it thinking it's such a waste of space to have it there. I don't know if we can maybe move it to the other side and then maybe that accomplishes what Councilmember Kennedy is talking about, or I'm not sure.
So,
But,
yeah, so I guess the first question to answer is who owns it?
Yeah,
Who put it in? My guess would, I don't think the city put it in because there's the other one is over by Chevron, right?
yeah.
It says
Yeah.
that, yeah. So we'll do some deep diving and see what we can
Okay.
find out. I thought it was actually a little comical that they left it standing that
Yeah.
close to the bridge.
Yeah.
Just like everybody, I got all kinds of phone calls. What's the door for?
Yeah.
Underneath the bridge, so they can access underneath the bridge and do inspections. So learn something new every day. All right, any other additions that we haven't talked about already during the meeting for the upcoming items? Councilmember Kurtz.
When are we bringing back the rules of procedure? I feel like we picked that up and haven't handled it in a while.
So part of that discussion was, a proposal was made and agreed on that part of that discussion was going to be had at the retreat. And so that is what we're waiting to have happen to bring the whole thing back.
Okay, so we'll make an update on dates for that. And yeah, so a couple of these are Lisa's. The code of ethics, social media is also going to be part of the retreat, right, Mark?
No, that one is one that we're planning to bring back next.
Okay.
Meeting on
Okay,
April
so we're
23rd.
still on track for that.
Yes.
Okay, then we've got Lisa and Jen. Commission appointment process. Where were we on that? I think this is one that you and Phil, I think we're discussing. You kind of took it over. What are you looking for timing on that? So we can get this updated.
We could probably do it sometime in May.
Okay, let's shoot for sometime in May. Fourth quarter, we've got a couple TBDs for second quarter. Leave those. Policy oversight. Remind me on that. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yep, and Mark and I will, and maybe Kyle get back on that maybe later this week, because I know we have talked between us as to how we can kind of get through that. I think pretty easily. Comprehensive review of ordinances. I think that probably deserves a workshop, a short workshop at some point here in the future to figure out how we're going to tackle that.
Yeah.
So,
and I think the where we left it last was Kelsey and others were going to kind of do just an informal review.
Yeah, here are the ordinance numbers that are in effect, and then we can kind of go from there. We can talk about it a little bit later this week. I know we Kelsey and I have touched base on it a couple times, but other things keep rising above some of this. All right, I think we're good unless anybody else has anything else to add. All right. We are up to citizen comments, and I don't have, I do, but I think Commissioner Smith, or whatever hat you're going to put on tonight. Rotary hat? No.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Brian Asmus, Liberty Lake resident. Just a couple of comments. One is I want to thank the police department and Chief Simmons for saving the taxpayers $36,000 by obtaining that grant for equipment that will keep the officers safe in those extreme circumstances. So great work, and it's great for the officers to have that extra safety measure. Also, thank you to the police department for that's been a little while, a few weeks ago, but I received a call late for me now, like 9:30 at night. Yeah, I know, for me, that's my bedtime. That reminded me that my garage door was open. And so I made sure I went out and closed that. So appreciate that as well. Even though it was past my bedtime, it was well worth me getting up. And then lastly, just something to think about whether this is eligible or not. So you're talking about the opioid abatement monies. And recent legislation just passed this last legislative session, goes into effect June of this year, requires that all school districts in all schools are now required to have naloxone, so Narcan, on hand. And we've had it at our high schools because it's also mandated by state law, but this new legislation requires it for all middle schools and elementary schools. And so if it's an eligible expense, it might be nice to use some of those funds to outfit the Liberty Lake 2 elementary schools, Ridgeline High School, and Selkirk Middle School with Narcan. Because the legislation didn't come with any dollars.
Of course not. Surprise.
And it's not very expensive. It's about $80 per school. So it's not a budget buster for the school district either. But if there's funds available that suits that purpose, it's just something to think about.
Yep, I like that idea.
All right, that's all I have. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks for joining us. All right, so I think. What? Oh, well, come on, Mr. Hamlet, get up there. Go ahead. We know who you are. We'll make a record of you.
Brad Hamlet, citizen of Liberty Lake. I want to thank the council for passing a resolution supporting the sports officials, not only in our county and our area, but throughout the state, because it's very, very important. I'm a member of the National Federation of High School Sports Coaches, and I get an email every single month begging for referees to fill positions, to do what these guys do every day, filling sports games for our middle school kids, for our high school kids, and even for our little kids out there doing their work. They're retired. They give up a part of their work day to come and do the work of officiating for those kids so they can play their games without a lot of other falderall. I will say this, having been a coach for 37 years in the public school system, I had to intercept parents on more than one occasion for charging a referee. And it didn't even save my wife from having to do that. A coach's wife even is brought into duty. I was coaching one day at a wrestling mat, and I'm coaching, and I know that everybody's getting excited, and all of a sudden I see my wife run right out in front of me. And I go, what in the world? And she ran in front of this big parent and intercepted him before he could get to the referee, reprimanded him right there. It was pretty good.
Get a visual of that.
Yeah, well, you can imagine seeing that happen. But I want to, again, it's really an important thing because it is a serious issue, not only in our state, but it's a serious issue throughout the country. We see reports in the news all the time of officials being accosted by parents, and that's why we can't get them to come and do the work. So thank you again for doing that. And we'll hope that it makes a difference in next year's legislative session. Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, do we have anybody online who'd like to make a citizen comment? Okay, so seeing there's no more citizen comments, we have no executive session, and unless there's any more business to bring before the council, going once, going twice, going.
I'll just
Councilmember Spencer.
Anecdotally, when I was probably middle or high school, I went to watch a baseball game of a buddy's whose younger brother was going to be playing, and they didn't have an ump, and so I was tasked to do that and had to make a pretty important call, and it was crazy because the one team, all of the parents were right up in my face, and I'm just.
And did you say you get your butt over here?
Yeah, thankfully there was a few adults there to kind of back me up, but yeah, it's a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
So
It is. All right, well, hearing nothing further, we will go ahead and adjourn. Thanks, everybody. Hey.